Biden had to delay a big meeting with NATO because he had tooth pain. So they had to call in and have a root canal done right there at the White House. I'm like, first off, can you imagine being that dentist that gets called in to do the root canal on the president?
From Bezos' perspective, if you're having a one-on-one meeting with 5 people, that's 5 hours right there. Then if you have a leadership meeting with them, that's another 2 hours. So that's 7 hours. So if you're just like, hey, we're just going to do a weekly meeting, an alignment meeting for 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, and get everybody aligned, I mean, it actually probably saves a little bit of time. We have these assets. They're super valuable. They're producing 50 new patients a month with no marketing. Yes, we pay a little bit more for rent for our location, and then we don't have debt, so we don't have those obligations that we have to meet, which makes you act and respond differently. Welcome back to another episode of Dental Rift. I'm your co-host, Gary Bird. I'm the founder of SMC National, where we help you create, convert, and close more new patients so you can grow the way that you want.
Wow, I didn't even know what to do with that pause. I thought I was in the wrong place. Tanner Applegate, CEO and founder of Unified Dental. We are a software company that helps run the business side of your dental practice.
So we got some hot ones today. I have, you have one about Biden getting a root canal, which I'm super curious about. And then we have some, I have a doctor up in Canada that has no debt. They don't have any goals for their teams. They have no bonus structure and they have no marketing, and they get like 50 new patients a month and they have 18 locations. And so I want to talk through that. It's pretty mind blowing what they're doing up there. So what else do you got? You had one other one that was interesting.
Yeah, the Bezos has a unique leadership thing that I want to talk to you about, how he works with his direct report.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So let's do this. So let's talk about Biden getting a root canal first.
No, I just thought it was interesting. I was sitting there flipping through a lot of these news stories that we read in order to kind of keep up with what's going on in the dental industry. And one of the things said Biden had to delay a big meeting with NATO because he had tooth pain. And so they had to call in and have a root canal done right there at the White House. I'm like, first off, can you imagine being that dentist that gets called in to do the root canal on the president, right?
Yeah, I think don't they have a full all the equipment in the White House so that the doctor can just come in and do whatever the work is, whether it's dentist and all that stuff.
I'm sure that it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know they have kitchens and they have basically everything self-contained inside of the White House.
I can't imagine them going and shipping them off to the local dental office and making them sit out in the waiting room with all the other patients.
with so many. Make sure, are they 4-star at least? Is it a 4-star office?
I don't know, man. We know the 5 stars overdiagnosed, so we don't want him to overdiagnose the president.
That'd be all bad. That would be really bad for your career. Yeah, so that's interesting. So everybody out there needs the dentist, I guess.
Yeah, we had a few offices when we were in New York that had some celebrity patients, and it was always kind of the talk of the office when the celebrities were coming in, and they would come in just like every other patient and have to sit and wait and do their work, right? It wasn't like we brought them in the back door or whatever. So obviously, though, when you're the president of the United States and you can't go anywhere without your entourage, you get a little bit of special treatment.
That's some serious security background, and Plus, Biden's up there in age too.
We had multi-billion-dollar patients in our offices, and we would still kind of treat them like normal patients. It was the weirdest thing.
Have you been flossing? Yeah, that's crazy.
Seriously.
Do you have any names of the most famous patients? You probably can't give that because of HIPAA.
It's called PHI, man.
You want to hear something crazy? Dental marketing agencies are dead. You got that right. They're dead. Why do I say that? Well, we don't consider ourselves a dental marketing agency. We are a growth partner. What that means is we help our clients not only create opportunities, but we help them convert them and close them as well. And that is what's needed in the day and age that we live, because just getting new patient leads is not enough. You need somebody that's going to help you actually get these new patients into your chair and make sure that they're the right kind of patient for your office. Now, we put together a whole report that will tell you where dental marketing currently is, because there's a ton of changes, tons of things are going on with the market, and we broke down what you're going to need to do to stay ahead of the industry and grow the way that you want. The link is down below. Go check it out. Everything is free. I look forward to hearing from you. Okay, good. All right, good. I was testing you, just testing you. All right, so what's this Jeff Bezos thing? And then I want to talk about this office that has no debt, no goals, no bonuses, no marketing.
So how many direct reports do you have?
Me? 2.
Yes.
I have 2.
You have 2 direct reports, okay? And over your years, I mean, I'm sure you've had more.
Yeah, I've had times where I've had
you've gotten larger,
way too many.
had less.
Yeah. I
Okay,
don't
so
do
how do
great.
you interact with your direct report?
So, first of all, I think I know where you're going with, like, you shouldn't have a team bigger than like the pizza thing. Is that what the
Yeah,
Jeff?
that's always a combo, but no, it's not about this one.
Okay. So yeah, so for me, I have found I don't do great with a ton of direct reports. So I like to get my hands dirty, get into things, grow things. So most of my direct reports right now are like project managers and like executive assistants working on things that help me. And then I'm still involved in like leadership meetings and those kind of things, but I don't do great with a ton of direct reports. Like I can't get the stuff done that I want to get done in a way that I want to do it. um so I have learned that for myself. Like I don't like having a ton of direct reports.
And a lot of the times with, I mean, like if you look at like the common business leadership style with direct reports, you'll do like weekly one-on-ones, right? To kind of catch up with what's going on and
Yep.
staying in tune with what your direct reports are working on. And what was interesting though with, and that was the same thing how I worked in the my last DSO is I had probably about 7 or 8 direct reports, and I would do the same thing. I kind of just spread out weekly
Yep.
meetings with them. With Bezos, though, as I was reading this, kind of like how a handful of billionaires just operate differently. What he does is he brings all of his direct reports in for a weekly, like 5 hour meeting to go through each one of their individual business units, which is intentionally kind of ineffective, right? When I think about a billionaire, I'm like, oh, they're optimizing every second of every day, blah, 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 right? But they would bring in all of their direct reports into this like 5 hour meeting, and he would sit there and go through every single person's individual kind of segment of what they're working on with the intention that everyone else could
Gets
then
aligned.
understand and participate and kind of get aligned around what each individual person was doing.
Well, and
Right. And I
honestly,
found
from
that,
that's interesting because from Bezos' perspective, if you're having a one-on-one meeting with 5 people, that's 5 hours right there. And then if
oh,
you have a
yeah.
leadership meeting with them, that's another 2 hours. So that's 7 hours. So if you're just like, hey, we're just going to do a weekly meeting, an alignment meeting for 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, and get everybody aligned, I mean, it actually probably saves a little bit of time.
It might save a little bit of time for him, but it doesn't save time for his
No,
team.
not for his team. Correct.
Right. His team has now wasted that time ineffectively, quote unquote.
Well,
Right. And I thought it was an interesting business or leadership idea that I had never even considered before. But I
Well, what
like
it
the
does
idea
is
of it.
it allows everybody to be aligned with what everybody else is doing. So it's really not about getting Bezos in alignment. It's about getting the other people into alignment. And that would be my guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that he said in the article that I was reading that it was really about like in times of emergency where you kind of have to jump in and help out the other person, they understand what's going on more in these other roles.
Yeah, I love that. And then you're going to work better together. I
Yeah.
actually think that's a great idea. Would you ever do that?
Got to have a team first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, let me phrase it
Early
different. Do you
stage
think?
startups, I would definitely do it because we're pretty flat anyways, right?
Yeah.
Like we want to make sure that we're understanding what's going on across the whole business. But as it gets bigger, it's an interesting idea. I don't know if I were to go back to the DSO world, I definitely think I would try it for probably about a month or so and just kind of see how it goes. There was a lot of times I felt like we didn't have communication because I didn't have certain people in that meeting during a one-on-one that I needed to.
Got it. And then how would how would someone operate this in a dental organization?
Oh, I think that there's not enough one-on-ones happening in dental organizations. I think that people just like the lack of leadership in a DSO where people say, hey, I hired you to do this. I expect you to do it without checking in, without providing support, without kind of giving you any guidance or clarity. Right. So you put this in with a VP of, or even a CEO underneath with every other division of the DSO going in, kind of understanding what's happening to the other ones. I think it's brings a lot of clarity.
Hmm.
You'd have to have rules though about who can chime in where, because I would be afraid that people that have no idea or no background on certain topics would chime in and kind of steer it off course.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that too. All right, let's talk about this office. So there's a doctor. His name's Dr. Jan Jeffers, Jaffers, I should say. It's Jaffers, and he's out of Canada. He has 18 practices. They're GP practices, and they get about 50 on average. I think around 50 new patients a month, and they do take out a little bit of debt when they start the practices. I think he said it costs about 1.2 million to get the practice up off the ground in debt. But then what he'll do is he'll take the profits from the other practices and he'll pay off that as quickly as possible. So right now they don't have any debt. and they have no marketing. So their marketing is they just pick the right location. They have no goals, so he doesn't set goals for his team. He just says treat the patient the best that you can, and they meet about that and talk about how to actually execute that. But they don't have goals as far as like KPIs and things like that. He also doesn't do bonuses. So he says, you know what, if I have to bonus you to do your best, then you're probably not the right person for this organization. I'd rather just pay you more and pay you fairly, and you treat the patients the best that you can. And so far, it's been working really, really well for him. What are your thoughts when you hear something like that? For me, I'm just like, wow, this is like the exact opposite of what everybody else is doing.
I don't know. I have seen those anomalies pop up or crop up in different offices where like there's no explainable reason why they are doing this way. They just kind of are. And I think it has to do, like we had offices like this too, where the doctor, I would have pinpointed it to the doctor and the team just had this amazing level of cohesion. But across 18 locations, I couldn't have described it as that. Like you can have cohesion in maybe one or two, but not 18 of them.
Yeah, I know. I've
Right.
actually done 2 podcasts with him. I brought him on the first one. I was like, okay, I want to do another one. I want to pick your brain some more.
And
And
what have you learned from it so far?
well, the main thing for him is that this is his take. Dentistry largely focuses on numbers. That's the big thing that everybody focuses on, like how many of this and how many of those and how many of that. And he says, if we focus rather than on focusing on that, if we focus on the patient and how we're treating the patient, that the numbers will take care of themselves. And he said, I used to, because his dad was a dentist. So he said, like, I've been there before where the patients are like, are you taking advantage of me? Are you just, trying to sell me something? He goes, we don't have that anymore. Like, there's not an issue in our practice with patients feeling that way. And it's because the team is really optimized to just do what's best for the patient, and then everything else will work out.
I don't know if I believe it.
So here's
I'm
what I
bluff
posted.
on this.
So here's what I posted online. So this is a quote from him. If we stop focusing so much on numbers and started focusing more on the patient experience, the dental industry and patients would be much better off. And so it's starting to get some comments on it of like, no, you need to focus on both. Can't just have one, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I would love to get your thoughts on it. Maybe even bring him on a podcast and have you kind of pick his brain from another perspective.
Yeah, I would. I'd be happy to. And I'm not saying that this is him, but there are times that I've met some founders, and again, I'm not saying that this is him, right?
Yeah, yeah.
18 offices is not something to kind of scoff or laugh at, but I've met some founders that are drinking their own Kool-Aid so bad that they can't even see the reality around them. Right? So when they sit there and are convincing themselves that everything's perfect and wonderful, right? Maybe this guy who's claiming not to look at numbers is actually not looking at the reality of the crapshoot that's happening around him too.
I see what
Like
you're
some
saying.
of the
Yeah.
people that I've seen, looked at, and I've said, "Hey, wow, you guys are doing so good. You're being so successful. Get it under the hood," and you realize that this guy, like, there's one group that claimed to have 50 offices in 3 years, that have everything figured out, and blah blah blah. And it turns out that he didn't actually own any of those offices he claimed to own. He
I
had some like
actually,
napkin agreement with them.
yep. I've seen that too. I've seen that exact scenario multiple times where it's like, yeah, I got 50 practices, da 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 da, and it's like, cool, let's do this. And then they had, yeah, like you said, they didn't even have legal agreement. Now, here's the interesting thing, Tanner. And I would say, okay, I can see that. I've seen what you're talking about. They don't have any debt. That gives you know how much more
Miracle worker right
runway,
here.
huh?
Give that guy some water, see if he can turn it into wine.
Well, that is so amazing, because what that does, you know how much freedom that gives you, that you don't have debt,
Oh,
that
yeah.
you don't. It's just like, we have these assets. They're super valuable. They're producing 50 new patients a month with no marketing, or almost no marketing. Yes, we pay a little bit more for rent for our location, and then we don't have debt, so we don't have those obligations that we have to meet, which makes you act and respond differently. So it's pretty interesting. If you're good with
He's been
it,
doing this for like 30 years and
he
has
has. It takes him
slowly,
longer. Yes, that's
okay,
it's
and
taken.
slowly grown up this group. Then
Yep.
I honestly, like, there are offices that we've gotten a dominant online presence that it really just starts to fuel itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you're the number one in Google in your area, all of a sudden, like, people buy into that and they just start giving you better reviews, which gets you new patients, which ends up
Yep.
being the cycle where you're like, you don't even need to put anything into marketing. So if
Well,
he's been doing that across all of his locations and fine tuning it, perfecting his online brand there, I could buy into that.
Well, I
But
think
if it's happening
what
with like
they
18 location in 2 years or 5 years or something, like,
no.
way.
He does it organically because they don't have goal. I'm like, how many do you want to open? He's like, I don't have goals around that. I do it when it makes sense.
Fair.
So that, and then the other thing is he got really good at picking locations. So I actually picked his brain on an episode of like, okay, how are you picking these locations? So he had some different thoughts around that, and that's his bread and butter. And one of the things that he really does is that he doesn't go upper, like some of the dentists that he works with wants to do like the upper echelons of communities, and he's like, no, I want middle class, because middle class have the most kids, they have a little bit of disposable income still. And then also what he'll do is he'll pick the location based on and name it after the community. So he's always like,
Right.
so if I'm going into Riverbrook, it's like Riverbrook Dental, and then we're right in the main area in the middle of Riverbrook by the main grocery store on the way to the school. And I thought that was pretty smart. And that's his marketing. Like those are his marketing, what he does. And he says at the beginning it's rough because it is slow going, but over time these grow into really successful practices. And I think now that he has a track record, makes it easier to bring in dentists. And I imagine that the retention of his dentists are going to be better as well, because the dentists get to focus on, the way they like to focus on things rather than how many crowns did we do or what's our KPI on this particular number or whatever.
Well, as something you've learned recently very intimately, the way that a dentist wants to do things, though, can be all over the board and does not always pertain to what's best for the patient.
Yeah,
Right. So if
that's
you're sitting there saying his secret sauce is doing what's best for the patient, that is a very opinion driven measurement that may not
ooh,
actually pan out the way that he wants.
ooh, that's a good point. Yep. I could see that. And how do you baseline that? I think and we talked a little bit about that. I didn't hit it exactly like what you're saying right there, but what he said, we do meet a lot and we do talk a lot about what is right for the patient, what is right for the patient. How do you look at that and how do you figure that out? So anyways, interesting stuff. Maybe I'll bring him on this podcast. I would love maybe you to pick his brain a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool, man. You have a good one.
Wanted to I
Oh, you got another one?
wanted to give you one little quick shout out to something that I've found recently that I love, just to give you kind of a little bit of insights on it. I found this new app called Text.com. Okay, so Text.com, which centralizes all of my different messaging across all the different platforms that I use. Right, I've got like WhatsApp, I got Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn Messenger, text messages, Slack, etc. It takes all of that and it centralizes it into one app, and it is the best.
You really like it a lot?
It works really
How much does it
well.
cost?
It's been a game changer for me.
How much does it cost?
I don't know how much it's going to cost right now, though. If you want to get in on the beta, they're charging $15 a month.
And it rolls up a text message, every message. Bro, can you text that to me?
Yep, text.com, man. It's legit.
All right, cool. I'm gonna download it right now.